We're back. I'm Dave Donaldson. Welcome back to Grip Tips. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Quasar double rainbows. When I first moved out here to Los Angeles, I actually went around to a couple of different manufacturers. Quasar Science was one of them, and when I was about to leave there, they actually let me walk away with a 2-foot and a 4-foot version of their Quasar double rainbows. Quasar was generous enough to let me take these home when I first moved out here, and pulling it out of the box for the first time, as you can see, the lights come with a couple of accessories. First being these boots that help protect the sides of the light, which is just a simple slip-on, slip-off design, and the unit has a protective film cover over the top of it, so you'll want to discard that before turning them on. And they also let me take home this tiny grip head, which can be attached to the NATO rail on the back. This doesn't normally come with the kit, but what does come with the kit is this baby pin that has a 3/8/16 tap hole on the top. Now, I'm not entirely sure why they made this knob a 3/8/16 knob that slips into the top of a baby pin. I don't typically see that a lot, but maybe that's because if it gets loose inside of the grip head, it doesn't like slip all the way through. I don't know. They also have this, what's called an Osseum slider, which easily slips onto the rail so that you can make fine adjustments when using these mounting hardware options. What I like about this is that once the slider is mounted on the rail, there are stops on both ends to prevent this from slipping off. In addition to that, the slider can be locked down into position with this tie-down knob. Now the slider has tapped holes for 1/4-20 and 3/8/16 mounting hardware, but let's say you want to lose the slider. The rail itself has tapped holes up and down the NATO rail as well. Now the construction and style of the Osseum baby pin is pretty slick, but I don't get to use a speed wrench even though it's the correct drive at 3/16 because the machine screws are really close to the baby pin itself, which means I have to use an Allen key to tighten the machine screws, and I kind of wish that they would have thought about this in the design process, as for somebody like me, I'd rather carry less tools on my belt. But you do have the option to drop these accessories on more Osseum sliders. So for that, I highly recommend doing that, as you can just slap on, slap off whatever type of mounting hardware you need in seconds. Now this grip head, on the other hand, can also be attached to the NATO rail in the same fashion. Just unscrew the knob completely until the knob falls off, and then remove everything down to the 2 screws that you see inside, which perfectly align with the rail or slider. Now what I think is interesting here is that they decided to use 1/4-20 screws here, but for some reason not a 3/16 drive, which makes for a very, very sad speed wrench, because now I can't use my speed wrench anywhere on this light. But B, now I have to carry an extra tool, actually an extra 2 tools, which, okay, realistically, if you're an electric or a grip, you're probably carrying a set of Allen keys anyway. But you know, I think it's pretty safe to say across the board when it comes to like ears, corners, Hollander fittings, usually we're using that 3/16 drive. And I again wish that, and this is really not just, this is not just targeted at Quasar, because I feel like a lot of like lighting companies do this. They don't think about what the industry standard is as far as mounting hardware goes, but most grips understand that yes, most of the fittings that we're using, even Dexter Track, for example, that goes together with a 3/16 drive, which if you don't know what Dexter Track is, I'll throw a photo real quick. It's just very long track. Anyway, back to the grip head. You slip everything back on and tighten down the knob, and now you can mount the grip head onto anything 5/8 or 3/8 thick. Now you saw me pull these off earlier, but the rubber boots have actually been made so that you still have access to all the ports and buttons of the double rainbow tube. Super easy to slip on, and speaking of the ports, the double rainbow tubes can be powered with either DC or AC power, with the addition of being able to be controlled with DMX. AC powered is delivered through a simple twist and lock PowerCon connector. However, DC power can be delivered through this D-tap power cable they provide, and I actually really like this plug, being able to, you know, connect and then twist on, you know, the locking part. I don't really know what this bit is called, but I just really enjoy that it locks onto the light, for lack of a better word, ensuring that the cable can't accidentally be pulled out. But in addition to that, now when the battery dies, I just have to switch out the battery and not the entire fixture. And I think most of us can agree that most of the tube lights that are out there right now, they have like maybe like a 2-hour to 4-hour, 8-hour battery as a whole, but I kind of like this design a little bit better, just truth and honesty, because sometimes you have these lights in a certain position for hours on end, and 2 hours is just not going to cut it. So being able to just remove the V-mount battery and slap a new one on without having to deal with any mounting hardware on the light, I think is pretty awesome, because if I have to take down a tube, then I have to kind of realign exactly where the old tube was. So it's just like making that quick switch with a battery. If I could get more lights to do that, maybe even, I'm just gonna say it out loud. Maybe there's a manufacturer out there who can start making D-tap power connectors for every tube light so that you could do a V-mount thing. Because I think that this is, I like this method better. They probably already make this, don't they? And I'm dumb. However, also, and this isn't something that Quasar let me take home, they actually, and I'll throw up a picture of it, but they actually do make a V-mount battery plate. So now a quick look at the interface. We actually played with this at Quasar's facility when I visited, so I'm just going to reset to factory defaults real quick. You'll also notice that the first feature that I pull up in the UI is effects, and if I hit the little check mark, nothing seems to happen even though the rainbow effect is selected, and that's because we need to bring up the intensity and then navigate over to the saturation, and as you can see, as I boost the saturation up, the rainbow effect is now displaying. The double rainbow has multiple effects to choose from, but something to note is that depending on which effect you choose, you will be given more options for customization depending on the effect. For example, in paparazzi, we can change the rate in which the flashes occur for something slowed down or sped up. Or in the emergency lights effect, we can change the hue, saturation, intensity of color 1 separately from color 2, and we can also change the pattern in which those lights flash. Now, separately from effects, we can tune this light anywhere between 1,750 degrees to 10,000 degrees Kelvin, control green and magenta shifts, group multiple rainbow tubes together, etc. It's a pretty straightforward and easy to use UI. Now, I did take some meter readings to see what kind of output these give off. First, measuring the 4-foot version, and at about 1 meter away, the light gives off just under 500 lux. I also got a really good score in fidelity and saturation, 94 for color fidelity, and then 103 in saturation. I then measured the 2-foot version just to see if there would be any real change between output or color, and it's just half the output, which is to be expected since it's literally the same thing as the 4-foot, just half the size. So those are the Quasar double rainbows, but sadly that is all that I have for you guys today. If you liked today's episode, please let me know in the comment section below. You can also follow me on Twitter right now. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.